Hello and welcome to another video. So a little while back I posted some pictures of the sessions I run on social media, and it had a theme. The post had a theme. It was all about tool work. I was talking about how tool work can help build confidence, resilience, all that hand-eye coordination, helps those with kinesthetic learning abilities, so on, and is generally a fantastic thing to do. And then one of the comments on that post, because it's social media, of course you'll get interesting comments, was asking, well, why do I not see any gloves on any of the children? They were using knives, axes, saws, drills, and for the majority of the time there wasn't a glove in sight. So I thought that today we'd take a look into my thoughts on glove use specifically, because this is a big one for Forest School and Bushcraft, because a lot of people are very firmly for, a lot of people are very firmly against, and there are a good portion of people in the middle who are just confused. So when you do your Forest School training, the one thing that you hear a lot of is we wear a glove on our helper hand. So that's the hand that's not holding the tool. So the idea is you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get protection on the hand that is more likely to be injured because the other hand is holding the tool. So if I'm sawing, of course, then I would want to have a good amount of grip by not having a glove on one hand and then the other hand protected. I mean, that sounds like a good idea. It sounds like it would help protect, help prevent injuries. But I'd say it's a little bit more nuanced than that. So let's say you are looking to do some knife work with the children that you're working with, and they are younger ones, so of course you're a little bit worried. You don't want to send children home with plasters all over their fingers. There's understandably quite a bit of caution and fear around using knives. So you go, okay, let's go and get a pair of gloves on them. Now, because they're younger children, you won't typically find good quality leather gloves for that sort of age range, because first of all, they grow out of them quickly. So the temptation is to go for a thinner pair. Now, a thinner pair won't offer any protection, so actually is almost definitely worse than nothing. You know those kind of garden gloves that just have the rubberized tip on the back and the fabric rubberized hand grip, and then they have a fabric on the back? Those, I would say, are worse than wearing nothing, because it gives you the illusion that your hands are going to be protected. So you either get some bulky leather gloves or you get some cut-proof gloves, and that cut-proof gloves is a whole different conversation. But when you're a child and your hands aren't an exact size and you're still growing, then chances are the gloves you wear aren't going to be fitting perfectly. You might have a little bit of a gap at the end, and this means that you start having problems with feeling where your fingers are. So where does the glove end and where do my fingers begin? I can look down, but because I'm still developing that hand-eye coordination, I can't feel where my hand is as easily. And the signals that my eyes are giving me are different to the ones that my hands are. So you start cutting, and because you're wearing a glove, you're safe. There is that thought, okay, I can cut however I want, and it's safe. So we're creating this false sense of security because these gloves aren't perfect. They will stop a small cut, but all they're doing is teaching bad technique. Like you start putting your finger underneath where the knife is going to be, or you start getting closer, or the temptation is to suddenly cut towards yourself like that, because, well, gloves will protect me. So in this way we can see that while it might seem like a good idea, there are nuances at play when we're using knife work. So what about using a saw? Do do some of the same things apply? Well, to a certain degree, yes. It means that you don't quite know where your hand is, but we're not working in close proximity usually. You can often, if you say have a bigger piece, you can often be sawing a decent distance away. So it means that this glove does keep our hands safe. Now, of course, I'm a big proponent of using sawhorses, so having a physical barrier in between the cutting edge and the hand that's holding the wood. So in that case, a glove is no longer necessary because you've got that physical barrier. That is a step above PPE in terms of safety. It's when we start getting into more non-standard positions, so like this, or where you have it sitting on a stump and you're looking to hold on to it. Of course, there's ways to mitigate this with poles, using your foot to hold it, but actually wearing a glove on your offhand, if you're sawing with a sharp silky saw or small pruning saw, it's not a bad idea. But then again, we're starting to make distinctions on what is our intended purpose, how are we working. So I do a fair bit of forestry work, as in addition to the sessions I run, in addition to when I go out and I camp and do bushcraft camps. And these are the gloves I wear. I'll typically wear gloves on both hands, and I will wear them for the duration of the work that I'm doing. Because with forestry, the emphasis is on working hard and working fast. And gloves protect our hands and allow us to keep working at a higher speed, because in some ways we need to be less conscious of where our hands are, and we can in some ways be less safe. So if I have a fallen tree here that I need to limb, then of course I'm going to be working rapidly because there's another one to get onto, and I don't have time to set myself up. Slowly go, okay, hand placement there, make sure it's all out of the way, make sure my legs are out of the way. It's a lot about moving faster and getting stuff done. And that's where PPE comes in, is when when you're pressured or you need to work hard and fast and you want to protect yourself while doing it. Now, if I was on a bushcraft camp and it wasn't freezing cold, then would I wear gloves? Probably not, because I can take my time. I can go, okay, I want to make a pot hanger, so I'm going to cut off this end here, just above this fork. Go cross over so I can protect my holding hand. I can make sure it's in the curve, then I can come out. And I could do this safely without gloves, because I'm acting in more of a slow and considered way. So depending on the activity you're doing, depending on the end goals, how fast you're moving, you can decide whether you go wear gloves or not. Now, of course, there are plenty of other activities that I would recommend wearing gloves for. I'm not going to tell you that when you're pulling up bramble or gathering nettles for cordage that you need to be a really tough guy and just man up and just grab the spiky thing. No, if you've got gloves, use them. If you're working with clients, encourage them to use gloves for the tasks where their hands are likely to be damaged. But the same time, we need to be thinking about our interactions with the environment, because we don't just interact with our eyes, we interact with other senses as well. And gloves are a way of protecting ourselves from the environment, just the same way that we've developed clothes and other safety equipment to be that barrier against us in nature. But sometimes it's just good to feel the bark of a tree. It's good to be able to handle things directly. It's good to get cold, and sometimes it's good to hurt yourself a little bit. So I feel our role with leaders is always, just like the Forest School ethos talks about, it's about risk management and risk reduction in a way, but it's not about the elimination of risk. And a lot of the time, what I feel we should be doing is managing that risk so that some injuries can occur, but we make sure that they are not serious and we make sure that they are not life-threatening. A minor cut to a fingertip is a minor first aid. Get it cleaned, get some pressure on it, get a plaster on it, keep an eye on it, and in general, most cases, the person is going to be totally fine. It would be a freak accident for something worse to occur. So we need to be balancing. Now, will that person who cut themselves learn not to do that the same way again? I would argue yes. In my case, probably no, because I still cut myself on occasion. But it's a learning experience. Sometimes we need to learn through that physical act. And until someone's cut themselves with a knife, I don't think they can really comprehend how dangerous a knife is, because it's all just abstract. They'll either move completely towards fear, or they'll move completely towards overconfidence. So they'll either not touch a knife because it's scary and they might cut themselves and they don't know what that's going to be like, or they'll move to the other end of the spectrum and they will be really careless. Neither of those are good for the individual, and neither of those are good for teaching skills. However, through all of this, I'm not telling you how you should assess risk within your sessions and the procedures that you should take into account. Because you might be working with children that you know are exceptionally haphazard, that don't have that motor control. I would argue that maybe this isn't the right developmental period for them to be working with those tools, but I can understand if you do want to. And then I can understand if you would then get a good pair of close-fitting, cut-proof gloves to use with that group or those individuals. But at the end of the day, it is down to you, the practitioner, or you, the parent, if you're one of my homemade families that are watching this. It's down to you to decide what you have assessed as being safe or unsafe. Yes, take into consideration your training, take into consideration your insurance, and your overarching body. If you're part of a larger forest school organisation, or if you're part of a school, then chances are you might need to make adaptations here and there. But really, in the end, it is down to your qualities as a practitioner. So use what you've learned, think critically, have a look at the real risk and decide what the risk and rewards are and manage them accordingly. And sometimes there will be cuts, hopefully they will not be serious, and hopefully that person will then go on to learn how to use tools and protective equipment effectively. So there we go. I hope you found this helpful in kind of forming your thinking. And remember, do make the most of every day, and I'll see you all next time. And a big thank you to Wellness Woodlands for making this video possible. It's fantastic to be back. Beyond the barking dogs you may have heard in this video, it is nice to be out in the comparative peace and quiet of the countryside, because I have been feeling it a little bit with the last few videos. Had to film in more urban locations, still trying to find a patch of nature where I can, but it is really nice just to get away from it all. So if you do want to get away from it all and go to somewhere that's relatively close by, with good access from motorway and so on, then do check out Wellness Woodlands. There's a link down below.